It is UFC Baku Azerbaijan fight week, and that means I've got to give my full card predictions. And let's be honest, right? The prelims of this card is utter cancer. A lot of the fighters are literally just like debut Azerbaijani guys. And obviously, because I'm half Kurdish, I will be rooting against all the Azerbaijani Turkish people on the card, and rooting for anyone who isn't that sort of region of the world. But yeah, let's just get in the predictions then, eh? So the first fight of the night is Tahir Abdullayev versus Jefferson Nascimento. I'll be honest, I couldn't find any footage on Nascimento, but he is 13-0, fighting pretty decent people from what I get from his record, while Abdullayev, I have been able to watch parts of his fights, right? But he seems to be can crushing. And I don't want to just be like, oh, right, I'm gonna aim with the undefeated guy because he's undefeated and he's not Azerbaijani. That's just straight up bias, and I've done that before and it's not went too well. But this guy hasn't been fighting the best people in the world. Like, his last win was a guillotine over a 3-1 guy, basically a debut guy, while he is basically not, like, has a full career before him. How old is he as well? He must be pretty old. No, he's 29. Alright, I'll shut the fuck up. He did fight people like 7-9, 2-0, 14-7, borderline Khabib level opponents, maybe slightly better. Even before his last loss, even his last loss was a 9-0 guy. So what does that tell you? But before then, he was fighting a 8-0 guy, a 7-7 guy. So his record's all over the place. Meanwhile, this Jefferson dude, Nascimento, he's been fighting some alright people, I guess. I recognise a few names if it would, like, stop giving me fucking ads. Kaan Morene, I don't know who that is, but he's 9-1, 7-1, 8-0, 12-3, 5-0, 4-2, 12-6, 3-1, 6-6, 0-1, 1-6. That is bad. 0-0. So his record isn't terrible. He's been fighting more good people towards the end of his career. I know he's some like really, really bad finishing artist dude. So yeah, and who am I gonna go with? Fuck it, I'll just go with Jefferson Nascimento. Yeah, hopefully gets the finish over this Azerbaijani in Azerbaijan. On to the next fight, which is Gene Matsumoto versus Bekzat Almakhan, and this is a good fight on the prelims, I'm not gonna lie, but Gene Matsumoto is very good. But I think Bekzat Almakhan is better. And he has the more power. And Bekzat Almakhan is hittable, especially against Topuria. But am I going to say that Gene Matsumoto and Topuria are on the same level of boxing? I don't think so. And as well, Gene Matsumoto got hit with a massive elbow to begin with. I really do think in this fight we're going to see a vintage Bekzat Almakhan performance where he's going to get a first round knockout. I just think Gene Matsumoto is too hittable. And he is good, and I do think it could go to a decision. It definitely could. I'm not just saying, but I just think Bekzat Almakhan is really fucking good fighter, man. He really is. He's underrated just because he got a Magomedov and a Topuria in his fucking Topuria in his first fight in the UFC. Doesn't mean anything. Andy knocked the fuck out of Brad Katona. Gene Matsumoto took him to probably a close split decision. And I could definitely see him taking him to a split decision, but I do just think, I don't know, there's something telling me, and I'm basing everything on feelings this week, because basically that's the opposite. Every time I think something's going to happen, and know if something's going to happen, the opposite happens. But when I have a feeling that something's going to happen, that does actually happen, and I never choose it. So this week I will be going with Bekzat Almakhan getting a first round knockout. Anyways, on to the next fight, which is Daniil Donchenko versus Theodor Berggren. And I'm going with Daniil Donchenko because obviously I'm not stupid, but Theodor Berggren has some decent he has some decent grappling scrambles and stuff like that. He has some decent kickboxing, but Donchenko is just a different fucking animal, man. He's from Ukraine. He mixes up the levels very much. He goes to the legs. He battered fucking Morono's leg in his last fight. Battered him in the body as well. Hit him with a few good knockouts. Almost knocked him out in a few moments. Had his nose bleeding. Donchenko is a monster. And he does, with his hair, he does look like Yuri Prohaska when he fights. Only because of the hair, nothing else. He doesn't look like him or anything. It's just the hair that gives Yuri Prohaska vibes. But Theodor Berggren is not too bad. He's just let's put it this way. He got held down. He likes to scramble a lot, but in a lot of these scrambles, he kind of gives up bad position, and then they kind of and then they just kind of lay him down mid scramble. And this Dagestani guy, I don't know where the fuck he was from. He was in his last fight. Abdul Semov held him down for 2 rounds, and then most of the 3rd round, and then he got a finish. I can't remember how he got the finish. Is he from Russia? He is from Russia, so he probably is a Dagestani guy. Not editing that out. And yeah, he got held down by him. So if Daniil Donchenko really wanted to show a lot more of his game, he could show some of his grappling here as well. That's definitely something he should go to. But going to a decision with Alex Morono, who usually or has his odd fight where he will take people to a decision and kind of drag it out and get a split decision win, is good. Although he didn't knock him out, because we have seen Alex Morono slammed out so many times. But yeah, it looked bad, but it also looks good at the same times. But Daniil Donchenko, I think he'll win this one, and I think he'll get a 1st round knockout. This debut guy almost lost his last fight. And even the other guy was doing well on the feet in some moments too. So yeah, that Dagestani guy was really fucking boring, by the way. He was just holding him up against a fence, typical fucking Dagestani behaviour. But yeah, let's move on to the next fight, which is Kaan Ofli versus Javier Reyes. Now this is my second take recording this, because the last recording I forgot to turn my microphone on, and it was literally just the iPad recording it. But we'll just get straight into it, because I am today's years old knowing that Kaan Ofli is Turkish, which means by DNA I have got to root against him and root for a brutal slime out by Javier Reyes. And in all fairness, I rewatched them both, and when you want to know something, I genuinely do think that Javier Reyes will knock out Kaan Ofli. And there's no bias here. I promise there's no bias here. But Kaan Ofli reminds me of a shitter Volkanovski with the way he fights. He just reminds me of Vogue, he's a little short, stubby dude. Kind of tit-tatties on the outside and then comes in with very similar shots. He's very similar to Volkanovski, Kaan Ofli, but he's much, much shitter than Volkanovski. But with Javier Reyes, I don't really know what to really call him, because sometimes he brawls, sometimes he snipes. But he has power. And the times I've watched his last 2 fights, and his last 2 fights, he's had very weird, strange finishing instincts. In the Contender Series fight, he finished him fairly easily and quickly. In his UFC debut against what's his fucking name? Douglas Silva D'Andrade or something like that. Fucking something mad. He more or less took him a minute or 2 minutes to finish him, which is not much hope, because Kaan Ofli is known for surviving. He got dropped by this random Asian guy, but Javier Reyes seems to hit different, and he's big for the division. I do think as Kaan Ofli is trying to fucking Volkanovski max on the outside, and he does lift his head up the exact same Volk does when people close the range on him. If he lifts his head out of his guard as he's coming forward, it's light out for Javier Reyes. It's lights out, because Javier Reyes will knock him out for Kaan Ofli. and it's lights out for Ofli. I've just fucked that. I've just said it the wrong way around, but yeah, I try to fix it, and then I fucked it up even worse. But I will be going with Javier Reyes to knock out Kaan Ofli, and I'm going to say second round. I'm going to say Kaan Ofli gets better. He's tip tapping on the outside, and then he gets caught. But this time he gets dropped and he gets finished. And yeah, our first Turkish knockout of the cards. Let's go. On to the next fight, which is Nursulton Ruziboev versus Andrey Pulyaev. And this is a fight between two scrubs, but one is slightly less of a scrub and is more like a mid-level UFC middleweight, while Andrey Pulyaev is a scrub, literally a full-on scrub. And I know what you're going to say. You're going to tell me that Abite Gutier got taken to a decision with him. Yeah, but that decision was literally him just getting battered around the cage. In the Nick Klein fight, he was getting repeatedly just taken down and laid on top of and stuff like that. And then he got a lucky finish. Literally a lucky finish. Same thing happened with Christian Leroy Duncan. He's just been getting battered around the cage. That's literally his game plan. I'm going to go in there and get battered around the cage. And Nursulton Ruziboev is not the most terrible fighter in the world, even though I'm not convinced. And I know we had this whole thing of when he came to the UFC that he's going to be some big prospect, and then proceeded to lose to Jaquez Buckley via grappling, by the way, which is not aged very well. But he's still better than Andrey fucking Pulyaev, and it'll probably go to a decision. Yeah, but again, Ruziboev isn't even that good himself, but I think he should be able to take out Pulyaev. Pulyaev is like bottom of the barrel scrub level, while like Ruziboev is like mid-level. Like, he does have some decent skills. He's just not the best. But to be fair, if Pulyaev literally just goes, right, take down heavy game plan, because he is from the Dagestani mountains, I think, is he? I believe, I know he's Russian. I don't know if he's Dagestani. He is. No, I don't think he is. But regardless, even if he is or isn't, if he has a grappling heavy takedown approach, he could beat Ruziboev, but I just don't think he can. I think he's not high enough level as well. He just coasts a lot in the fight. He doesn't really do much in his fights other than just get tap leg kicks and then get clipped around the cage and battered and stuff like that. So, yeah, I just can't trust any sort of pick in Pulyaev. But, yeah, I could see an underdog pick in Pulyaev, but you just can't pick it. You know, it's just, he's proved us many, many times that he's just gonna coast on the back foot. And Ruziboev, I just think, is gonna get a knockout here. He's just gonna batter him around the cage, and I think that the added up damage from his last fight against, what's his fucking name? I always, Abite Gutier. His last, that they took lots of damage, dropped him basically every single round. He didn't do well. Whoever told you he did well is wrong. We learned more about fucking Abite Gutier than we did fucking Pulyaev. So, yeah. But let's move on to the next fight, which is Abdul Rakhman Yakhyaev versus Julius Walker. Now, obviously, I will be rooting against Abdul Rakhman Yakhyaev because he's a Chechnyan Turkish. You know, I couldn't think of a worse mix if I tried. But but in all fairness, with no bias, I'm gonna have to go with Yakhyaev because Julius Walker he's terrible. I just watched his fight against Rafael Kakera, who is Kakera is basically known for getting in the cage, getting hit with a shot, putting his hands up and being like, please, please, please finish me. I don't want to be here no more. And he made it to a competitive decision with him. And then he immediately after that got knocked out by Dustin Jacoby. Yeah, that tells me all I need to know. Obviously, they need to stop giving Yakhyaev just everyone coming off a knockout. Like, let's just go through his record a second, right? Benson Ribeiro was coming off a knockout, two knockouts, one from Azamat Mirzakhanov and Umar Sai, right? And then it was the other one he fought. Kakera was coming off a knockout loss to Carlos Leal, I believe. No, it was the Julius Walker decision. Then it was a knockout from Bakauskas, Ibo Aslan, another filthy Turk, and and now he's been cut from the UFC. So that tells you all you need to know about. That's what tells you all you need to know about the opponents that Abdul Yakhyaev is fighting. So yeah, hopefully after this they actually give him a decent opponent, because yes or no, right? Yes or no. The first minute of the Brenson Ribeiro fight, was he yes or no not getting fucking tap danced around? Like, he was landing his jab cross really effortlessly. Fucking hell, I'm stuttering. But yeah, he was landing his jab cross effortlessly. Had him a little bit stumped to begin with until he started landing, and then Benson Ribeiro kind of just like wilted. Um, I think he was fought him a bit too hesitantly. I think if he fought with a bit more like oomph in his shots, he might have been able to do a lot better than he did. But yeah, I'm gonna go with Yakhyaev. Very, very obvious first round knockout, probably in the first 90 seconds of the round. Julius Walker is terrible. And after this, it's back to fucking, I don't even know where, fucking Fury FC, LFA. And if you're lucky, you may get a PFL. You know, it is what it is. But yeah, let's move on to the next fight, which is Farman Hasanov versus Eric Nolan. And for some reason, Eric Nolan is a slight underdog, but like, I can't find any of Farman's fights anywhere, and I'm not paying for PFL if that's what I've got to do. So I'm going to choose Eric Nolan. And to be fair, if Bai Sengia is supposed to be the next up and coming prospect, even though I don't believe that, and Eric Nolan was doing really fucking well against Bai Sengia, surely he should be able to beat this 5-0 random Azerbaijani guy. Yeah. Like, what even is his record? Has he fought anyone of note? Fought a 6-0 guy in his last fight, 3-1, 3-0, 0-1, 0-0. And then, for some reason, he fought a random amateur bout in the middle of his pro career. I don't know what the fuck that was about, but yeah, I'm going to stick with Eric Nolan. And as well, Eric Nolan probably has the coolest fucking chest tattoo I think I've ever seen in my life. That tattoo is pretty fucking cool, I'm not going to lie. But yeah, I'm going to go with Eric Nolan. He did well against Bai Sengia. Should be able to do well against whoever the fucking Hasanov is. Yeah, let's move on. On to the main card now. And if you're enjoying the video so far, why not hit the subscribe button? We're trying to reach 100 subscribers by the end of 2026. So if you could help me out with that, would be greatly appreciated. And while you're at it, why not like the video? But let's just get into the next fight. First fight of the main card. It is Abus Magomedov versus Michal Uzlanchuk. I can never say that guy's name, and I will be going with Michal Uzlanchuk. I'm probably still saying it wrong, but fuck it, I have a normal fucking name. And I will be going with Michelle in this one, just because Abbas is a bit 50-50. Usually wilts after the halfway through the second round. You know, I do think it's overestimated how much he like wilts after the second round, but he still does it. And Michelle is a lot sharper boxing, you know, much sharper footwork, but he's now training with the Fighting Nerds. The Marc-Andre Barriute fight, it was a bit of a questionable one. Made him look a bit pillow-fisted, if I'm honest. But the Marc-Andre Barriute fight, if you don't put him out, he is a tough little bastard, isn't he? I mean, I can't even say little bastard. Like, he's a tough cunt, basically, right? And he will just do that, walk forwards and take punches. I'm still surprised he didn't knock him out. Like, I really am. But yeah, Abbas Magomedov is not that good. I can see Abbas having a good grappling round in round one. Then as the rounds go on, he starts failing the takedowns, getting them stuffed, and then gets TKO'd in the second round, maybe even the third round. And that's what I'm going to say. Uzlanchuk in the second or third round. I'm going to go in the third round. First 2 minutes, I want to say. First 2 minutes. But anyways, on to the next fight, which is Brunno Ferreira versus Ikram Aliskerov. And this is a super close fight, I think, because I think Bruno Vieira's grappling defense is kind of underrated. I know he only showed a little bit of it against Vittori, and if he did show it in any other fights, I can't remember off the top of my head. Ikram Aliskerov in his last fight showed a lot more well-rounded skills, but one thing that showed out to me specifically is that he doesn't like being backed up, and he looks very awkward. He looks a bit like Islam Makhachev if you watch the and I'm not just saying that because of the beard, but if you watch the Volkanovski, the first fight, he looks a lot like him. He doesn't really like being pressured. And the switch stances of Vieira when he blitzes in, that's what got him counted before against Gregory Rodriguez. But I do think that he came into that fight a bit too aggressive, a bit too confident, especially against Gregory Rodriguez, who could KO you with one shot. And Ikram Aliskerov, have I been saying? What the fuck? Ikram, he's very slow, but he's very powerful. Bruno Vieira's very stiff, but he's not the fastest, but he is faster than Aliskerov. And who am I going to choose here? I don't want to go with the underdog pick, but it's in Azerbaijan. If it goes to a decision, we know they're going to give it to their guy. Basically their guy, anyway. Do I give it to them? But I do think Bruno Vieira has a decent chance here. He has a switch stances. He has powerful, he's quite powerful himself. But then I'm thinking, most of his wins recently have been via armbar. And, if we're choosing anyone to win in this fight, it is by KO. And it's Aliskerov gets KOs. I know he took Park to a decision, but he showed a well-rounded game. He was popping him on the feet. You had Khabib in his corner, as usual, making it all about him, as usual. I'm telling you, he has a main character syndrome. If you want to come back, come back. Stop making it all about you when you're cornering people. It's not about you. But Ikram, I'll have to go with Ikram, because Bruno Vieira's coming off a knockout loss. He's never been knocked out before, I don't think. Not properly, anyways. I don't think he's been knocked out. Okay, he has been by Ruziboev. Never mind, I'll shut the fuck up. But he's been knocked out, and now he's coming up against another power puncher in Aliskerov. He's going to be very hesitant, and he came into that fight very confident. This fight, he might come in a bit hesitant. The only person he has lost to even in his entire career, is Khamzat Chimaev and Robert Whittaker. I feel like that's saying something to me. That's really kind of saying something to me. And Bruno, I really want to choose Bruno Vieira. I think he's an underrated chance here. But if Aliskerov gets 3 seconds of control time, it'll add up to a fight he just dominated him in the Dagestani terminology, which is laying to opposition for 3 rounds and get a very, very close split decision. And that's how they win fights. It's boring, but that's how they do it. And we can't say anything, or we're racist or Islamophobic. But I'm going to go with Ikram Aliskerov. I think he's going to catch that punch maybe when he switch stance on the outside. I think if he watches the Gregory Rodriguez fight, he can really time his shot perfectly. And if not, he can use his grappling. And if he even gets about a minute of control, he's won that round because his name ends in a fucking V. Moving on to the next fight, which is Asu Alambayev versus Charles Johnson. Now, this is a very close fight. I can see both ways where both fighters could win this one, but I'm having a lean towards the Asu Alambayev side. And I do hate saying this because an Asu Alambayev fight is about as entertaining as watching grass grow. But even in his last fight where he was getting pretty much battered and pieced up by Alex Perez until he got the guillotine in the 3rd round, a very lucky Hail Mary guillotine in the 3rd round. I still can't even remember the sequence. I can't remember the sequence. Did Perez shoot? It wouldn't remind me, but did Perez shoot and put his head in the guillotine? Hopefully not, but I can't remember, right? But the Jose Ochoa fight isn't too bad of a fight. He lost to Manel Kape, but Manel Kape did eye poke him. But Manel Kape is a future champion, no doubt about that, especially after the Horiguchi fight. While Charles Johnson, He's still a 50-50 fighter, if we're honest. If we are honest, he is a 50-50 fighter. Let's be real, right? You know, he beat Bruno Silva. He lost to Alex Perez. Beat Lorna Kavna in an upset, a very good upset. Then lost against Ramazan Temirov. And then Sumaduerji, what the fuck was his name? He won against him. You know, he's a 50-50 fighter and he is due his loss. And as well, if you do look at his losses a bit closer, you'll be able to see a lot of grapplers. Cody Durden, Rafael Estevam, Mohamed Yakhyaev. They're just some grapplers. I don't think Ramazan Temirov used any grappling, or if he did, he wasn't successful in it. I can't remember the Alex Perez fight for the life of me. But I do just think Asu Almakhan, we've seen Charles Johnson struggle with grapplers before, and it's not as if his grappling's terrible. He just struggles against them. It's just a bad stylistic matchup. I just think Asu Almakhan is going to be able to squeeze a split decision win here. Very, very close. Let's be honest, he's not getting a split decision in Azerbaijan. He'll get a unanimous decision, but it will be a split decision, basically. It will be so close, it could be a split decision, but obviously, you know, the Azerbaijani crowd, they're literally gonna, every time this guy lands a punch, they're just gonna be like raiding crowd cheers and stuff. It's gonna persuade the judges. As well as that, Asu Almakhan, he isn't bad. He's pretty fucking decent, and he's very athletic grappling. He does jump the back a bit too quickly, but when he's on the back, he looks like a nightmare. He's like a human backpack. But you know what? He's what Aljamain Sterling is described as when it comes to back takes. Because I was watching Aljamain Sterling earlier this week, and like he is really underrated, but his back taking is so overrated, a part of his game. Asu Almakhan is the way people describe Aljamain Sterling. If he gets your back, he is weirdly stuck to you. He's like a little fucking, I can't say the words I want to say. I was about to say chimp, but there's going to be a little bit of a racist stereotype of that. But you know, fuck it. He's like a chimp, right? And he's glued to your back, and you can't get this guy off unless he loses balance a bit, and then he'll just jump off himself. He's really fucking tight to you. And yeah, I do think, overall, I do just think he's going to struggle. And Asu Almakhan is going to get the split decision win, or a unanimous decision win. But obviously, it'll be a unanimous decision anywhere other than the Middle East. But yeah, let's move on to the next fight, which is Nazim Sadykhov versus Maciej Camilo. And I'm going to be dead ass here, I'm going to be honest. Camilo just isn't, I'm not impressed at all. I don't want to say he's not that good, because I do think his grappling is actually better than his striking, which his striking is actually what he's known for. But I do just think he's not a high level. Sadykhov isn't the highest level himself either, but he is good. We know he's good. Unfortunately, he's Azerbaijani and he's good, but he is good. And I do feel like this fight is going to go very, very similarly to the Nicholas Motta fight, just not as intense or crazy or last as long. I do think Nazim Sadykhov does finish Camilo inside of round one. It's going to be a brawl, but I do just think, similarly to the Motta fight, I think Nazim Sadykhov's power is just going to handle out more in the fight, and his power will just come out victorious. Camilo, he got into the UFC, right, over a win over that guy you asked for a win as contract at the press conference. He beat him, and to be fair, he wasn't even that good himself. And then his first fight in the UFC, he loses via submission to Gabe Green after pretty much beating his ass. Kinda, not really. It was kind of just like he was ahead, mostly ahead. And then against Borshev, he kind of just mixed in the grappling with his striking, and his grappling looked all right. But I don't think he's going to be grappling well against Nazim Sadykhov. He's no Fiziev. You know, he's no Fiziev. And even before that, a lot of these a lot of these wins from Nazim Sadikov have been finishes. Terence McKinney for second round rear naked. Elvin Elder, he got a third round doctor stop. I don't remember that fight. That was ages ago. He got Ismail Bonfim doctor stoppage in round one. I still don't remember that fight. I remember the right hook Nicholas Motta finish because that was crazy. And then he obviously got finished by Fiesta Ziam. And I do just think his power is going to come out like powerful in this fight. He's going to win because of his power advantage over Nicholas Matthias Matthias Camillo. I don't even know if I'm saying his second name right, but first name right. But yeah, I'm going to make this one short. I'm going to go with Nazim Sadikov on this one. I think it's a pretty simple pick. No need to overcomplicate things. So yeah, let's just move on. Which is Michel Pereira versus Sharamagomedov. And there's some like little bit of tension here. Basically, Sharamagomedov has called out Michel Pereira for caught with the Israeli flag. Obviously, like Islam, Judaism. It's a big war at the moment, innit? But yeah, I guess you're going to have two very proud communities battle it out in comment sections of the results of this fight, I guess. And I'm going to have a great time reading through them. In fact, I might make a video on that if that happens. But this is the co-main event. It needs to be said. It's not the best in the world. You got Sharamagomedov, who is shit. Let's be honest, he's terrible. He is shit. He almost lost to Marc-Andre Barriute. And then you got Michel Pereira, who can't fight past round one. And even in round one, he looks terrible and awful. And if we go through Michel Pereira's last fight anyway, you got Zachary Reese, split decision, looked awful. Zachary Reese almost beat him, and Zachary Reese is also awful. He got slimed out by Kyle Daukaus in round one. It's supposed to be his best round, and he got slimed out in round one. Abus Magomedov, yeah, they just decided to have a tippy-tappy, shitty, slow output, it's just a terrible fight it was. It was awful. I hated watching through that. It was terrible. And then you had Anthony Hernandez, which Anthony Hernandez is a good prospect, but he hasn't been the same since. And that's basically the main thing here is just like Sharamagomedov. And as well, with Sharamagomedov, I know he lost to MVP, but MVP is a good striker for one. And Marc-Andre Barriute is a guy who comes forward and will give you a tough fight. I wouldn't be complaining if Sharamagomedov sort of KO'd him in the first round after having a bit of a war, but instead he kind of ran away from Marc-Andre Barriute. Yeah, and it's just he had his face, he had his nose broken. It was a messy fight, but at least we know that Shara can like dig deep. While Michel Pereira, he does wilt, he does quit, he does it quite often in his fights. And you have had great knockouts from Sharamagomedov, the Armin Petrosian fight on the Holloway Taporia card, Michel Oleksiejczuk, the guy's name I can never fucking say. He was early on this card. He win via decision, and then you had Antonio Trocoli. Not Trocoli. Fucking, I hate when the announcers have to remind me that it's actually Trocoli. We're going to call him Trocoli. And yeah, before then he fought Bruno Silva, probably the UFC's biggest fucking bum. Has he fought since then? I want to know. Yeah, he's not fought since 2025 May. Okay, that makes sense. I was just wondering. Yeah, I think this is a pretty self-explanatory fight here. I think it speaks for itself. Sharamagomedov is trash, and Pereira is also trash. So yeah, it will be good to see like Sharamagomedov actually fight like a decent opponent. More so I can make tweets out that annoy that certain community. Yeah. It's so much fun for me watching them rage bait and chimp out. It's really, 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 really fun for me to do. But I guess I won't ever get that again from Sharon Magomedov's fan. I remember them all crying as if he isn't some bad dude. Like, he has one eye. Imagine fighting with one eye. And I'm just like, the guy attacked someone in a fucking mall with his wife. He got beaten by this random on the street, by the way. Was beaten and dragged away. And then he snuck round the corner and sucker punched him when he wasn't looking. And I think that was in front of his wife. I'm not quite sure. Right, I know the first half was, but I don't know about the sucker punch. He's a fucking horrible person. If anything, I want Michal Pereira to win this fight, and he's not too good of a person, you know? So, fuck him. You know, I hope he loses this fight, Sharon Magomedov. Fuck him. You know, I'm all for, like, you know, fights in public against, like, you know, fighters when you have actual beef. Like, if these two went face to face and scrapped it out like Conor and Khabib did, then I'd be like, well, you know what, fair enough, it's two fighters, but he attacked it and he sucker punched him from behind. He's a shitty person. I can't wait for the day he fights someone semi-decent, like a Bo Nickel, and gets starched out cold or submitted embarrassingly. You know, someone like Bo Nickel, who isn't the best in the world, but he is good, would embarrass Sharon Magomedov. In fact, that's the fight I want to see next, is Sharon Magomedov versus Bo Nickel. But yeah, overall, I'm choosing Sharon Magomedov because Michal Pereira is dog shit. Anyway, moving on. On to the next fight, which is Rafael Fiziev versus Manuel Torres. Now, this is a pretty self-explanatory main event. A lot of the fights on this card do kind of speak for themselves if you watch a little bit of tape. And I will be going with Torres here, because I just think Rafael Fiziev, he's kind of washed now. Even in the Ignacio Bahamondes win, his most recent win, he did look a bit washed in there. And even throughout his career, he's had a bit of up and downs. Like, he had a close fight with Bobby Green, of all people. He's had close fights with also like people like Justin Gaethje, but everyone that Justin Gaethje fights is a war. But I guess the main thing is that he can't cut range. And against a rangy counterpuncher like Torres, you need to be intelligently cut the range down. Now, Ignacio Bahamondes didn't really need to do this because Torres just ran into range trying to rush a knockout after he rocked him and then got knocked out himself. But Fiziev doesn't do that. He comes in on a straight line. His head's there to be hit. That's how Rufi found his knockout. And even then, Gaethje did the exact same thing. Gaethje found his chin as he was coming in on a straight line and hit him point blank. Easy to hit person Fiziev is. Even against Ignacio Bahamondes in the third round, he was getting hit very much clearly. Very much. And it shows because in that fight, his face looked a mess. You know, his face looked a mess. And Fiziev is just incapable of cutting the range. I do think his takedowns could be a bit of an issue in this fight, but we've seen Torres defend takedowns. All you need to do is get an underhook. And even in the clinch, if it breaks from the clinch, Torres will hit Fiziev with shots. Ignacio Bahamondes was. The only difference is that when Torres hits him, he will go down. Fiziev will go down if Torres hits him coming out of the clinch. I think there's not really much where like you can be like, well, Fiziev's going to win here, here, and here. Because although he was beating Rufi before the knockout, barely. He barely was. It's a very, 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 very close matchup. And, you know, I just side with the person who is younger, has taken less damage, and he's just taking less damage. And it's just, he's a lot more sharper. Like, I genuinely think Torres, no matter what version of Fiziev that he gets, he is one of Fiziev's worst matchups. And you know what? I'm going to say it right now. I think Torres' counterpunching is much, 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 much better than Rufi. As you know, I'm not very high on Rufi. He tries to counterpunch but still gets hit. Torres doesn't get hit. He's got hit once, maybe, and that was by Ignacio Bahamondes, which, in fairness, he got knocked out by that one, which isn't the best. But I just see a lot of people are just going, oh, well, Ignacio Bahamondes beat Torres and Fiziev beat Ignacio, so that's how it's going to work. But no, MMA math doesn't work, and we've got matchups, stylistic matchups, where Fiziev is going to have to close the range, and he's not good at moving his head to close the range. And then in this other scenario, we've got Ignacio Bahamondes, who's fucking 6'3" versus 6'2" Torres. You know, I don't know how tall Torres is. This has got like off my brain, just can't remember. But he is tall. He didn't have to really close the range that often that fight. He was just countering off blitzes from Torres. So I think it's really safe for me to say that I think Fiziev may be doing well with the kicks on the outside, but Torres has more of a boxing style. Kicks every now and then, but Torres is more of a boxer in general. But I do think first round is going to be difficult, and then he will catch him on the chin in the opening minute or two of the second round, getting a second round TKO over Fiziev and placing himself pretty confidently in the rankings, and then he's up against other guys. And I think, personally, he should rematch Ignacio Bahamondes, because I do think he would beat him now. But yeah, that is my prediction for the UFC Baku Azerbaijan card. Hope you've enjoyed. You're trying to make it to 100 subscribers by the end of 2026, so if you could help me out with that, would be greatly appreciated. And yeah, if you enjoyed the video, like as well, and follow me on Twitter, because we don't troll anymore. I don't even know what the point of me even posting on Twitter is. I don't do anything on there. But yeah, follow me on Twitter.